Welcome to Squared Circle Shenanigans. I am your host. I'm Brother Paul. Of course, I got with me my co-host Reese. How are you today?
Doing well. How about you, brother Paul?
Pretty good, pretty good. Just relaxing and winding down, for the evening. Of course, with us we have our fantastic guest for episode 64, which is the one, the only, Mr. Ethan Hubbard, Mr. or Ethan James. How are
Either
you?
way, either way, I'm fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you for having me
Perfect.
on this
Thank
evening.
you
How
for
are
coming
you?
on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Will. We're pretty good. We're doing pretty good. Excited to have you on. Excited to talk with you. We got a lot on our plates to talk about. You know, podcast promotion, wrestlers.
Oh yeah, everything.
D,
Everything's on the
D,
table.
let me before we get to the wrestling. Let me just start with my first real question, which is interesting. Degenerate golfer.
So
Please elaborate.
there's two kinds of golfers in this world, and there's a very famous golfer, Phil Mickelson, who is both of them. There is either and so I'm less degenerate now, right? Like there's been some changes in my life and less degeneracy on that end. But I was like as often as I could get out after work, betting games, usually dollar a hole, stuff like that. Never really losing too much money. We used to do 18 for 18, which is where you shotgun a beer for every hole that you play, like that kind of degeneracy. So it's toned down a little bit, but I still do enjoy hitting the links.
Interesting. All right. All right. Wow. All righty. Well, with that being said, let's get into a little bit more now. So we've got you as a wrestler. You've trained at the House of Truth with Mr.
Yes.
Truth Martini. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Or actually, before we get into that, sorry, how do you
No, you're good.
tell us a little bit about how you got into wrestling and some of your favorites as you were growing up while watching?
Yeah, let me shut this thing off. It's loud. And I should have known that ahead of time. So, and of course, now I'm going to go all blurry. That's fine. We'll get into it. So, my path into wrestling, much like, so to age myself, I'm in my early to mid 30s, I guess, is what it would be now. I'm approaching the mid section. So I grew up as a kid at the height and the beginning of WCW. I got to see the lifespan of it. I got to see everything. My earliest memory of wrestling is the first episode of Nitro. I remember it was so cool because there was the mall. And as a kid, you absolutely fall in love with these larger than life characters. And
100%.
so many of my friends would, even in kindergarten, they would love Hogan. But I was a Sting guy. Sting always spoke to me. The face paint, the blonde spiky hair, the cool wardrobe, like Sting was it. And then Macho Man was another guy that I loved. And then I loved the cruiserweights. I was real big on WCW. I didn't get to watch quite a lot of Raw. At the time, I, as many children are in the area and in life, I was a child of a divorced household. So at my mom's house, I was allowed to watch WCW because it wasn't as risque. It was the little bit, it was the tamer, the more digestible wrestling show, if you will. But when I went to my father's house, I could either watch WCW or I would be at my grandpa's, and my grandpa always had Raw on. Like he was a Raw because he loved Heenan. Even though he was on Nitro, like he had started watching Raw when Heenan was on there, and then just kind of stayed with the product even through the really bad years of like the new generation, the new era, new generation style stuff. And so I guess really I love WCW, but what kind of like sold me on sticking around into wrestling was that first episode of Nitro, then being able to see the Vince promo ushering in the Attitude Era. But then I want to say, 12 or something, when Cena uttered the words ruthless aggression. And from that point, that's where I really, like, as a kid, you looked at it as superheroes. That was at the point where I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be involved in this somehow. Just between Angle, who was arguably at the time, and you can make the case ever, the greatest wrestler. And most legitimized wrestler as well. And a guy who is now the GOAT. Like Cena. Like we all know it. He's going to be the guy on Mount Rushmore. So that's my background into like where I fell in love with wrestling was that, and just being able to spend time with my grandpa and hang out and watch it with him and have something that we were invested in together. My dad's side of the family, I had a lot of cousins. He's one of 8 kids. And so like out of all of the cousins that got to spend time with my grandpa, that was the only thing that I knew he sat down for 2 hours a week to do every single week was watch wrestling. And I got to enjoy that with him, with none of the other cousins around, of all 50, some of them. Thank you, gentlemen. These are the guys at World Championship Wreckage. I also do a show over there called Monday Night Madness, which is a retrospective into Monday Nitro with my friend Trevor.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff.
Interesting.
That's
All right,
awesome.
that's awesome.
So growing up with wrestling, did you watch like also independent wrestling as well with TV?
So I didn't really get invested in independent wrestling until, and I wouldn't even say I really got invested in it. I found ECW by this lovely place that we used to have here. It was like it was like Downriver Disneyland, Gibraltar Trade Center, if you guys are aware of it. There was a tape trader in there. And the tape trader that was in that location, hi, everybody in the chat. The tape trader that was at that location could get you pretty much anything that was either aired on TV or somebody could get their hands on it. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I had an aunt that lived in Tennessee. She used to bring tapes up for us. We would be able to watch Smoky Mountain, Jim Crockett, any of that stuff. She would bring tapes up. And that's how I learned about WCW, like being a product before Nitro was a thing, was through the tapes, because she would record the Saturday shows. But I found out about ECW, I want to say I was 8 years old at Gibraltar Trade Center. And we were getting a hot dog and we were going through and walking around the cars, and it was at like some sports card show or something. And there was this dude and he's just got all of these. And I don't remember if it was a heat wave or what it was, but there was something there and we picked it up. And I remember seeing Tommy Dreamer and Taz, and I'm like, these guys, this is like what it's going to grow into. Like, this is so cool to watch. And I must have wore that tape out. And I had a VCR player eat it, actually. So, yeah, that's kind of my intro to where wrestling was. And then, like a lot of us, I went through, as I was getting into high school, you know, you start to have people that are like, wrestling's really not that cool. And so I didn't really stay caught up on the weekly product. I did when DX came back, like the 2006-ish era. But I would always watch the Rumble. I'd always watch Mania, regardless. I don't think I've ever missed one in my life that I've been alive to actually watch. I've always watched those two. But I didn't really pay attention after probably Mania 23. I went to Mania 23. I thought that was kind of like the highlight of it. It's never going to get cooler than this. I'm never going to do anything until I was 26, I think. And what's up, Tommy? And I was working for a company, and there was another local independent wrestler that worked there, Jay Abrams, and we worked together. I didn't know he was a wrestler at the time. I went to a show. My wife actually worked at a Family Video, and they were a sponsor of a show that was taking place at a Salvation Army. And my first experience of going to an independent wrestling show was at a Salvation Army. It was a benefit show for, I want to say, leukemia. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, so lo and behold, I see my coworker at my way into getting recommended to go to House of Truth by him. And one thing led to another. And here we are now, gentlemen.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a wild ride too. I did take a considerable amount of time off. I did training. I had an injury after training, and then I kind of like was trying to recover from that. My wife got pregnant with my daughter, who I love, and I kind of had that decision to make. Like, do I want to be a dad and be home for her and all these, beautiful memories that you hear about people missing out on being on the wrestling world, which is. The people that are able to do it, more power to them. I think that's and their families as well. That's a long forgotten thing, that their families give so much sacrifice. But I made the decision to just stay home. And then COVID hit and it just kind of spiraled from there. And then I went to a show. It was, I believe, October of 2022. I went to FE Wrestling, who is your friend Jeremiah Goldmain. It was his promotion, and I got the itch. I got it real bad again. Sitting front row, I'm looking at it going, I know how to do this. Why am I sitting here? Why am I sitting here? And why am I not inside those ropes?
Right.
And from there, it just kind of, like I said, it spiraled. Full bore went into it.
Awesome.
100% awesome. Absolutely. As a promoter and a wrestler yourself, what's one dream match you would want to see or participate in? So you could do one or beat.
Goodness gracious. A dream match that I want to see. So I'm gonna stick with attainables here, right? So there's a match that I want to have, and I'm not anywhere near good enough. When I went back to training to learn how to basically relearn how to wrestle after 6 years away, I had a practice match with a young up and coming star in the business here in the state of Michigan. Anyway, one Thomas Bailey. And I would absolutely love at some point to be confident enough in myself to have a singles match with Thomas Bailey. However, I do not believe that will ever happen, because I think Thomas has just the highest of heights to achieve. He, along with so many others, are just, they're geared and they have the right mindset and they're going to move forward. Dream match
says hello.
What up?
Hey, Jeremiah.
He is finally back from JCW's Gathering of the Juggalos.
Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree. I heard that he was a smash hit there, actually. Everyone hated him.
Yeah, well, hey, he did. Jeremiah is Jeremiah. It's an acquired taste, but if you love him, you love him. If
he did his job well, he was hated. That's all that matters.
There you go. If I had to, so something for me to sit down and book, that'd be challenging, because my goal is, especially with Divine, is to put the local wrestlers, put a spotlight on them, people that I think I can put them in a position to succeed. There's a match that I can give you probably 3 of them off the top of my head. There's a match that I hopefully at some point will be able to make happen. The Relentless one, the Relentless Barbie, Ray Larson. I would love to have Ray in a match against Giselle Shaw from TNA. Those two know each other pretty well. I'm hoping at some point to be able to make that happen. I would love to be able to put Stella in a match with anybody that can really match her speed and athletic and acrobatic instincts. There's pick and choose any of the multiple really, really high flying young wrestlers out there, and we can put them in that. And then one match, you guys, I don't want to say I can spoil it because I don't know where she's going to end up at the card, but we have Billy Starks coming in for the next show, or for the next Divine show. And it's everybody knows that Heather is the biggest Billy Starks fan in the world. Heather Blue, that is. Now, I can't tell you where she's going to end up because I don't know. I don't know where it's at. We do have a vacant spot on the card in the Juniper match. However, she's been campaigning for it. Heather's been saying, listen, I want to face Billy at some point. And I'm like, look, you have a really big task ahead of you with Stella. Focus on that, and we'll see what we can do in the future. So maybe in the future, if this goes well, maybe we can get a one-on-one with Billy Starks and Heather Blue.
Awesome. Okay. That'd be really cool to see.
100%.
So my headphones went out. No, sorry guys.
No, you're fine. What do you enjoy most about the industry?
The people. The people are phenomenal in this industry. I have met more people that are I want to figure out the right way to say this. So the wrestling industry is a lot like Hollywood, right? So everybody has a dream. Everybody wants to be something in it. And when you kind of realize what part you're going to fit in, this is where I come in with this. I don't really do the wrestling thing anymore. I would call myself a battle royal specialist, right? I would, if somebody was like, hey man, we got a royal, and pulling the curtain back, we're going to put you in the Bushwhacker Luke spot. Great. Awesome. I love it. Let me go in. Somebody can clean my clock. I'm knocked right out. I got my entrance music. I got to get out. I made somebody laugh. Right. But more importantly, I love the people, and see, everybody has a dream, and the dreams are not always the same. What's huge to somebody else is small beans to somebody else. what's really important to someone, somebody else might have already done, and they can give them an inside information on how to get to that goal. I love people's stories, and the backgrounds are so interesting because not everybody comes from the same exact background. I have a background. You guys have a background. Everybody you meet has a background. So it's crazy that something that's so common is actually unique. We all have come from some place, but every place that we came from, it creates the fibers of who we are as a person. And you're able with wrestling, you're able to show that through in a character that you bring alive. So whether you are a character, whether you're the guardian owl, or whether you are just an extension of yourself, people get to see inside or a little bit deeper into your creative process. But you're not just telling them how you're doing it; you're showing them it's an art form, and people are the art form. It's kind of crazy, like. So there is a canvas, and most paintings are done on canvas. So you would think the ring would be the canvas, but I think the paintings are actually the workers that are in this industry. They paint themselves, and then they move across the silver screen or the canvas. So it's insane. It's insane. Like it's community theater, it's combat sports, it's entertainment. It's gladiatorial. I love it. I love it. I love everything. I never have the same conversation 2 days in a row with anybody that I talk to, anybody that's on the roster, anybody that's on a show that I'm on, involved in, helping out with, just somebody shooting the shit, to be honest with you. There's never the same conversation, and that's really cool, especially when you have a monotonous, boring job where you're on a schedule and you have to do the same thing every day of every week. To have this break from reality, to watch people achieve their goals and achieve their is phenomenal.
100%.
That's awesome.
100%.
Really great way of putting it too.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Speaking of TNA, it's kind of funny. I have two questions kind of regarding them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've really been watching, the industries as much lately, but as we've seen, both AEW and TNA have been working with TNA, in the past, few years, trading superstars back and forth, doing such. Who do you want to see on either brand? Swap to the other one, and what kind of matches would you like to see with those specific superstars?
So give me Josh Alexander versus Chad Gable.
Okay.
That match, obviously you're gonna have to dial back right now because you've got the Wyatt Six,
Right.
and their involvement into Team Alpha or whatever Chad's calling his thing right now. But if you had to put them in a bubble, I feel like you put the walking weapon against Chad Gable, you're going to end up with a fantastic match. There are two guys that can tell a story. One of my favorite Ultimate X matches were like the old ones, Amazing Red, Chris Sabin, Jay Lethal when he was younger, things like that. My favorite Ultimate X match is from a couple of years ago. And it had Sanjay Dutt and Josh Alexander and everything. And they did that whole big chain where they like chain submission off the top. Absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite bits. But it was so well done, and it just kind of fit the story of everything. I think he's a guy that once he gets the more exposure on a bigger scene can literally just take off. I just hope that the time is right. I also know he runs a training school and things like that. So there's extenuating circumstances, but I feel like he's in that Ethan Page position where we've seen him come over from, he was an AEW, I don't want to say reject, but he cast off from AEW, ends up in NXT, and man, he is just to the moon.
Absolutely.
In regards to somebody going to AEW from a TNA or something like that, anyone in the women's division, improve it. I think that the TNA AEW relationship is kiboshed at this point. I don't know the inner workings of what's going on behind the scenes. It feels like there's a little bit of funding coming from WWE into the TNA camp at this time, and great decision on them, by the way. I'm not criticizing any kind of decisions there because the Jordan Grace thing was phenomenal. You've been able to have the crossover with people being into the Ultimate X tournament now.
Right. The NXT tag team title.
The NXT tag team. Yeah. You're Trey Miguel and Zach Wentz being on there, not Nash Carter. We can just disregard that name.
Right.
So they're the Rascals. I mean, that partnership is fantastic. AEW is still working with New Japan on things, and
That's true.
I just kind of sometimes, if it makes sense, the partnership doesn't really seem to be there, or they have the partnership and somebody will leave New Japan and go work directly for AEW. We see it with Okada. It's a little disappointing. I mean, it seems like he's having fun, but
right.
for a guy who 4 or 5 years ago was at the tippy top of the mountain, and now he's just another guy, it feels like. And I'm not saying you can't recapture that glory. It's just a little disappointing. I feel like AEW is a ship with it's like if you put a really good ship out there and you just don't have a captain. I try to not be. For a long time I was negative on things, and I was very, digging holes and like cutting deep into stuff. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be positive. I want to look for the positives in things.
Right.
I'm excited about Britt Baker being back. I'm really hoping Jamie Hayter helps her out at Wembley. I don't know what her status is. I'm drinking the Haterade though. Huge Jamie Hayter fan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I want them to succeed. The more wrestling companies that are succeeding in the mainstream, the better off this entire industry is. I don't understand the concept, and I don't mean to knock either of you gentlemen because I don't know your views on it, but I don't understand the people that want one of them to die. It's not good. It's not a good thing. I want places for my friends to be able to achieve their goals at, like for people to get there. Hi, Kelly. Kelly is the owner of Bailey's Bearded Dragons. She's also Thomas Bailey's mom, and she's awesome. Bailey's Bearded Dragon sponsors Divine Wrestling, and that is Joshua Bailey. That is Thomas Bailey's father, also in Bailey's Bearded Dragon. So yeah, I'm just popping in for everybody. You're all getting it today. I want to see wrestling succeed, and I think that's one of the coolest things. And when we have these options for these crossovers, which has been sorely needed with WWE, by the way, all of the other companies were willing to work together for so long, and I don't know if it's Nick Khan, if it's Triple H, if it's Ari Emanuel from TKO Group. I don't know who said do this. I have a feeling I know where it came from, but like Joe Hendry. The dude was the hottest guy on the indies because he had a sick theme song. 100%. And you put him in NXT, and now it's like this dude has to be in the Royal Rumble next year, right? Like he's got to be. You got to put him on that stage.
100%. He's got to be one of the surprises, even though it's not a surprise.
No, I mean, and to me, it almost feels like he has to start the Rumble, or they have to say, hey, like this is where we think is going to be a low spot, and put him in to like raise the energy back up. I love it. I love wrestling, guys. I mean, for all the
sounds like it's crazy. It's awesome.
For all the bad stuff that goes on in this industry, and there is, well, like it's kind of we'd be doing ourselves a disservice to like not acknowledge that there are bad parts of this industry, but with positivity and making strides towards the right people being involved in the right things, and people speaking up, and we can make the right change. Yes, and we can believe in Joe Hendry.
Now, quick question. When you said about Joe Hendry being in the Rumble, if Joe Hendry were to win the Royal Rumble, who would you want to replace?
Okay,
we're going. Champion is at the time.
We're going super. No, I'm gonna disregard that because I don't think if he won it, I don't think whoever is a champion at the time would be the champion by Mania. I think somebody would lose at like Elimination Chamber or whenever they do another one. I almost want to tell you I want to see the two Scots face off and put him against Drew. Okay. I would almost tell you I would want to see that because I feel like they're both really good talkers. And I don't mean to ding this. He's not exactly the most exciting guy in the ring, but he is a very good talker. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a face JBL.
Yeah.
To where like he's got his stuff down, but he's never gonna be like, short of the Eddie Guerrero match, which it was with Eddie Guerrero. JBL never really had like that match. Yeah, I would probably say it would probably that. Seth Rollins would be all right. That would be good. Like somebody that he could chit chat against. The Miz would actually be a low key underrated match between them two because the Miz could carry the match. They could both talk, and it'd be a pretty good program going up to it. I don't think that needs to be like a Royal Rumble winning thing to do. I think you could probably pull that off anyway. I am a huge Miz stan, by the way. The dude has been great for 20 years, and he's so good because people just dislike him. Like that's why he's good. He's been playing the same character forever, and he's just made it happen.
100%.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. All right. Speaking of TNA once again, we've seen WWE and AEW have signed massive talent lately. Who have you been most excited to see if you have seen them? And then if that's the case, who would you like to see TNA possibly pick up, whether it's from the indies or somebody leaving a different company?
Who would I love to see TNA pick up? All right, so I'm gonna step outside of the WWE side because I don't think that applies because I think there's potential for crossover minus like the really big players.
Right.
I love so many people on the TNA roster right now. Maybe, man, you're putting me on the spot here. Probably Mance Warner.
Okay.
Yeah, probably Mance Warner, but I feel like his stuff just works so well at GCW and Wrestling Revolver and all the other places that Mance, participates in his shenanigans at. But yeah, that seems like a good one for me. Just because I feel like he could go there and Cardona could still go there and they could still work together on stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
I just don't see I don't see Steph DeLander going back to NXT or WWE anytime soon. But I feel like TNA is viable for them.
Okay.
The characters would work, the shticks would work, stuff like that.
Right.
All right.
Interesting. Okay.
So this question is, I'm going this is for your podcast.
Yeah.
So tell us first, before I ask my question, if you could tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. So for the longest time, my buddy Clint and I, who is the co-host and the co-owner of On a Forklift Wrestling podcast, we just sat around and BS'd and stuff, and very much like the two of you gentlemen, we just sat there and we talked, and we would talk about wrestling, and we would always go, hey, we'll do a podcast one day. And this is all the way from, I'm gonna say WrestleMania 32 is when we had kind of like around the time that we met and started BSing about stuff. And that's kind of the time that I got back into like watching wrestling before I actually like went and trained. But yeah, we just sat around and finally it was CM Punk's debut in AEW. So it was almost 3 years ago. I said it was Monday night, and I said he streamed video games at the time. I said, set something up. I got stuff to say. I got stuff to say. And we sat down and talked for 3 hours on a StreamYard thing and went, oh, okay. And we ended up, I don't know, we had like 15, 20 viewers at the end of it. And I was like, oh, people actually watch this garbage. Like at the time, we had no idea what we're doing. There was no format. There was just us like ranting and raving and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it moved on from that to where we developed a weekly product. I developed friends in the industry, World Championship Wreckage. We got a lot of growth off of TikTok and things like that. That's when we kind of like moved into, like a year after that is when we met Jeremiah at one of his shows. And it just kind of kept going from there. We kept building things. We'd be involved with the show. We'd do interviews. And that's really kind of how it started to spiral out of control as we did these interviews and we found things out and we're like, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And the big turn that really happened. So January of 3, I did a, what up, Coco? I helped out at a show with Rachel from Horror Slam. They did a Truth Martini tribute show or something like that here in Romulus at the VFW. Oh, oops, gave away my location. Hopefully no one tries to dox me. That'd be weird. but anyway, I did a show with that, and then I kind of like opened that door, established that relationship, and I want to say it was March or April. She got a hold of Clint and I on short notice, and asked us if we had the capability to stream a wrestling show. They had a fan who was very sick, unable to attend the show. Always attended all of the shows. And wanted to be able to see it. So we figured it out on like 4 days notice of how to do it. And it was one of the wildest. It was my first time I'd ever been to a deathmatch show. The main event was the Duke, John Wayne Murdoch versus Schlack. I was picking, I had a little bit longer of a beard. I was picking glass out of my beard for what felt like a week.
Wow.
I got cut from the show. Like it was wild. It was crazy. I have a tripod that's like duct taped together and stuff with my phone on it. And we're ringside and we're running around. We're running off like the worst choppy internet ever. We had like 300 viewers concurrently on the stream at a time. So we found out though that specifically, one, deathmatch wrestling fans are absolutely nuts. They're insane. There's a showdown by you guys this weekend, King of the Kill with RPW.
100%.
But we found out that the show was for a gentleman with the nickname Piss Jug Mike.
Oh, okay.
And Mike was a staple in the community. Unfortunately, Mike is no longer with us. But I and Clint, and we have talked about this multiple time and time again. We owe pretty much everything to like all of the views in the matches and us having access to be able to come and video matches and things like that. We owe that to Mike. Like I wouldn't own Divine if it wasn't for Mike, because I established that relationship with Rachel, and I was able to like when the opportunity became available, she trusted us because of the work that we'd done previously. And then kind of like how we gravitated towards, we found out that women's wrestling did very well on our channel, and more so than like the men's matches. Like I have, Jason Hotch is a TNA superstar, and I have matches on my channel with him, or on our channel, sorry, that are 300 views, and I have 4,000 views on women's matches. Leela Hall is currently the most viewed women's wrestler on my channel, our channel. I hate saying it's not a good thing. It's a we. It's a conglomeration. Like this is a community effort. It's not just one person. They put the matches on. We just have we're able to record them, if that makes sense. But yeah, like I said, Mike was the reason that we were able to do all of that. Unfortunately, and I'll never take any kind of credit away from all of that stuff, but that's kind of what got the ball rolling. As for the name, like I said, big WCW guy. So is Clint. The greatest match of all time, and people can fight me on it, is the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match that took place between Chris Kanyon and Buff Bagwell.
Okay.
And originally, this was supposed to be Judy Bagwell on a pole. Well, I don't know if you know this, but you can't put a human on a pole, not like a regular size pole. So there's a great bit that opens that match where Chris Kanyon's talking about not being able to find a pole to put the old battle axe on. Speaking of Judy, so he comes out with her strapped to a forklift.
Oh my God.
And it is 12 minutes. It's absolutely insane. There's a fantastic video of Tony Schiavone watching it back and giving commentary to it. If you guys ever get an opportunity out, but that is something like we went down this rabbit hole to where I was very inebriated one night after a UFC event. We had watched The Backyard, and then we had watched a UFC event. And then I found Judy Bagwell's phone number. So I actually called Judy Bagwell at the time and left messages on her home answering machine. And unfortunately, Judy passed, I believe, last year in November. But I never did get a call back. However, we did no, you know what? It wasn't last year. It was 2002 in November, but we did interview Buff Bagwell. So we had an opportunity. I had to pull the trigger. We got in contact with him. We were like, hey, we'd love to do this. Super fun hour and a half that we were able to do. It was, I love doing it. We've had to slow down a little bit recently. The stuff with Divine has kind of taken precedent. Plus, we have some absolutely fantastic co-host members of the team, things like that, if you want to call it, that I would hand the keys over to at any time. Annie O'Neill, Summer Rawson, At any time, I could give them the keys to the castle and never think twice about it. They're two highly trusted associates and members of the Forklift family, and I love that we can just, if they want to get on and talk, they can get on and talk.
Right.
They helped build the network, the audience that we have, and I'll never take that back from them. Like they're welcome at any time.
Oh, all right. That's
Yeah,
very
your
awesome.
podcast, I listen to it all the time. It is great.
I do appreciate that, Reese. So thank you.
Thank you. And who was your first guest on a forklift?
Oh, good Lord. Real buddy. We're gonna deep dive here. Hold on.
Oh boy, here we go.
This is 3 years worth of stuff. Like we're
it's
well over. Let me see who our first guest was. I can tell you who our first like non-wrestling guest was our buddy Russ.
Okay.
He owns Russ Joy Media. He's in Philadelphia. He's a Philadelphia Flyers correspondent. He actively is he's the guy. Like he's actually got stuff. Our first guest though.
Interesting.
I'm trying to see what our first wrestling guest was. I think it might actually be Jeremiah.
Oh, interesting. Our co-host and like our 28th guest.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where that was. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking that was either Jeremiah or it was Buff Bagwell. It was one of those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
One really good name and one really good name.
Yeah, so no, I mean
Awesome.
that's kind of where that is. Every year, I mean, a couple other things that we do. Every single year we do an extra live stream. It's never well planned out. We're very tired by the end of it. Sometimes Clint dies.
Oof. Poor Clint.
Or he gets pied in the face. It's one of the two things happens.
Just
but
while he's sleeping.
Right, yeah. So we doubled our donation from last year from the first year. So that was really cool. We were over, I think we were almost we almost tripled it.
That's
but
awesome.
you know, it's not a ton, but we do our best. We try really hard.
100%.
And everything goes to charity. It goes to Children's Hospital Networks. And that's important to us to be able to give back.
100%.
Yes,
Most definitely.
I am still shook. I do not know who
Still looking.
It's got to be it. It feels like it has to be Buff because I think that was the first. Like, it's either that or it's. Hold on, is that the Goldman one? Is that the first one? Hold on a second. I can tell you when this is. October 20th, 2022.
October 20th.
And then this is. No, it was him. Yeah, it was October of 2022. It was okay. Jeremiah.
Okay. Yep. Interesting. All right, that's cool. That's cool.
we have had I don't ever want to say like somebody is the favorite interview that we've ever had, but it would be hard to top Maximilian and Heather Blue. The interview was an hour and 20 minutes. We talked for another hour and 30 minutes after we got off because we were like, all right, this is around an hour and 30. Like, we're good, we're fine. And then we somehow talked for another hour and a half after that. And we're like, why didn't we record that? That's where the really good stuff was at.
Right.
That was a long one. That was a marathoning one.
I bet.
But yeah, it's opened a lot. Like I said, it's opened a lot of doors. Obviously, without Forklift, Divine wouldn't be a thing under my stewardship. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a thing under anybody's. I wouldn't have met fantastic people in this industry like John Bullard. I wouldn't have met, which, by the way, she told me to tell you that you're an absolutely fantastic person, Reese. I wouldn't have met Davison Sarai, who is a commentator at Divine. I wouldn't have been able to develop that relationship. I wouldn't have met Peapod from RPW. Chris out of Toledo would not have met him. Also Divine. I'm just going to start plugging all the Divine people. John, like I said, John Bullard, with Fantastic League of Wrestling out of the Chicagoland area, who Divine is also working with. We're handling the women's division out of that company. People like Sean Porter, people like Hardcam Frio, who is like a son. He's a really strange son to me. I would have met people that are in the comments, the Baileys, Coco Beware or Coco T Ware. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I watched my friend count grow, and I only add people that I've met in person or like know of and things like that. And then I
Right.
see people that it's like, hey, you have 300 people in common with this person. And I'm like, how did I even meet them?
Right.
Ray Larson, Nick Green, Kevin Calloway, Annie O'Neill, Heather Max. Like these are all people that I can open my door to at any time and not feel a hesitation at all with it. Stella Buho, El Noctumbulo, just all kinds of people, man. It's a crazy industry, and it's wild, and it's like a family, a really messed up family, but it's a family, you know.
Right. Interesting. All right, touche. So all the divine and Jeremiah, and
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, I learned, it's hard for me to say. He's been very helpful in this process, this transition to learning what being a promoter is, and both Jeremiah, John Bullard has been very helpful in it. Peapod on the back end has been crazy helpful. Davison's been super helpful. Schwartzy's given his guidance. Rob Brown with Chaos. Rachel for trusting in me and kind of giving me a structure of what is there, of what they've worked with.
Right.
Rachel and Breyer from Horror Slam. I'm sorry, I'm going through names of like people
No,
I can, I thank, but like these are people that I wouldn't be sitting in this spot if it wasn't for them. And people develop ideas of whoever they want. I'm just speaking based off of my experiences with people. It's gone great. I just think about the people that you meet in this industry, and Reese knows it. Like Mickey Knuckles, I never thought, like, from watching Mickey Knuckles like videos back in the day, and then you meet Mickey Knuckles. Clint, I know he was he watched a lot of CZW when he was younger. So getting to meet Drake Younger was really cool for him.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy. And then up and coming stars too. Cause like we're working with people now that I know in a couple of years, we're going to see somewhere bigger.
Right.
Especially in the women's industry. It's such a hard field because I don't mean to take anything away from the men, but like some of them fall into the category that I did. Like we looked at it and we went, hey, it's fun, but like count me in for a battle royal. And that's about it. Cause we're not like, I have no problem admitting I'm terrible. I'm safe enough, but I'm terrible at like actually doing all this stuff. I don't mind getting beat up at all. I'm there for a laugh. I like making people laugh. I enjoy that.
Okay.
But there's not a single person on the card that I don't see, like at the Divine card, that I don't see has a great future. I'm more than willing to run down the card with you guys if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free, please.
Yeah,
awesome.
so it's a 5-match card. These are not in any order.
Okay.
I don't really know what they're going to take place in. So we have a tag match between Leela Feist and Carter Kaufman out of the Indiana area. By the way, we have 2 Leelas on this card. We have Leela Feist and Leela Hall. Leela Feist and Carter Kaufman, they're out of the Indiana area. They do tag together. They can be seen in places like White River Wrestling. They have made their debut at Metro Pro in Wyandotte last year, I believe. And then also the Off the Rope studio run by Sabrina Kyle up in Ontario. They've been there. They've been all over the place, but they are an experienced tag team. They are coming in to take on Juniper Gates, and a partner TBD.
Ooh,
So I don't know who Junie's going to pull off for that, but I'm excited to know when I get the call so I can approve that.
Absolutely.
Next, we have a returning Kenzie Black taking on Leela Hall, the other Leela on the card, but not to be considered least. We are airing the show from Wyandotte, Michigan, and of course, Leela Hall hails from Wyandotte, Michigan. So can't really have a match there without having Leela on the card. Kenzie Black is going to give her one heck of a challenge. A last show, Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Leela Hall unfortunately took an L from Randy West, but it's Randy West, so let's be honest here. That makes sense. Right. But it was a valiant effort. She put up a great fight. She did really well. I think Kenzie Black's going to give her a heck of a time, and it'll be good. It'll be good to see that. I like Kenzie. She also hails from the Indiana area, wrestles at GLWA, Pro Wrestling King. Different shows out that way. By the way, you'll notice that I mention other shows because, these ladies work everywhere. 100%. And I think it's important to acknowledge that they work everywhere because Divine really is probably only going to run about 4 shows a year. We're going to work with other promotions to try to get more stuff out there for them and do our best to just elevate other promotions, elevate the wrestlers themselves, all that kind of stuff. Our next singles match is between the Relentless Barbie, Ray Larson, the one currently inhabiting my shirt, and Storm Garcon, who is one heck of a wrestler, also out of the Indiana area. Sorry that I'm pulling a bunch of people from Indiana. Storm has come into their own recently and is on a heck of a blazing trail. And this, I believe, if I'm correct, is the Relentless Barbie's first time at Divine Wrestling. So we're going to see if, who's going to come out of this with a win. But these two have both swore that this is going to be a barn burner. And I'm excited to see it from them. I think that they do have a history together. They have worked against each other before, I believe once at Metro Pro and a tag team capabilities, and then once somewhere else. But they are, that's been a while. We'll see where they're at. They're both massively improved since then, and it's going to be good. It's going to be like I put this as low key, like this is like the sleeper match of the card for me. Then we get into the real meat and potatoes of the card. So we then have a grudge match again between Ricky Morris and Rory Shield. These two, Reese is very aware of this. Rory actually used Ricky's boyfriend as a step into the ring last time. Yeah. I don't want to say boyfriend, sorry. Acquaintance, possibly significant other. There was no confirmation, but she looked pretty irritated when she stepped on him to get into the ring, which power move for. Rory was injured. She was unable to compete at the last show. So Ricky Morris took on Kenzie Black. Banger of a match. You can catch it on a Forklift Wrestling podcast on YouTube. And then, so continuing on from that, there was possibly a little backstage altercation there at FU's Oops All Bangers between Ricky Morris and Rory Shield after a unfortunate loss of her trios titles by Rory Shield. That video, I believe, will be coming out tomorrow. I've just received it. Oh. So we will we'll verify that there's no issues there, nothing that can't be seen, and we will post that up online. And then so we'll see how that shakes out because those two are pretty much in a blood feud at this point. Right. And then our main event, as called out at the last show, Heather Blue challenged Stella Buho, the Guardian Owl, for her Divine Women's Championship, Divine Pro Wrestling Championship. And Heather currently is the holder of the For Us Wrestling Women's Championship. Right. And Stella currently has 4 or 5 other belts, I believe, in various promotions. And Heather wants to even the playing field a little bit. So I know that she has a chip on her shoulder. You can check out the video that was just released today. She is definitely gunning for that title, but there is a healthy level of respect between these competitors. And you're gonna see what happens with it. And then Billy Starks is coming. I don't know what match she's coming for. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know. I don't know where she said, "Hey, I'm coming up to the show. I'm going to be on the show." And when Billy Starks tells you she's going to be on the show, she's just going to be on the show. She's going to be on the show. Like that's a thing. She had to fly up from Orlando a day early, wherever she's. I believe they're in Florida, Jacksonville, something like that, wherever AEW's at.
Right.
She had to fly up early. All in or all out is in Chicago the next day. So she's got a little layover in Detroit. Said, hey, where are the shows in the area? Found my show. That's where we're at. So
Nice.
you'll see Billy Starks that night.
Okay.
I'm intrigued to see where she ends up too, because I'm not going to tell her no. You know, you never look. You don't look. I don't like
Absolutely.
the terminology. You guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If somebody life gives you lemons, you make lemonade
right.
out of it.
You don't turn down an opportunity that's presented to you. That's
exactly. You don't turn down the opportunity to Billy Starks on the show.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, Divine always puts on a good show, and I'm stoked to see this one.
I'm excited too. Like I said, little bit of a venue change, but you know, hopefully we're gonna do our best on here. I know it seems like a small card, but hey, it's a Friday night. We're gonna get in. Hopefully everybody has a great evening. You know, we'll get you out of there. There are food and drinks are available at the venue. So I know Lucha Puerco is on the menu or is on the flyer as one of our sponsors. They are catering the event for the wrestlers. So we greatly appreciate that to them. We greatly appreciate Bailey's Bearded Dragons for being involved in the sponsorship of the show as well. Right. Not to me being the guy to plug it, but hey, if you're interested in sponsoring Divine, anybody that's watching, feel free, reach out to me, reach out to the Divine page. We've got multiple different packages that we can do, all the way from like basically what's an individual package that includes a GA ticket and some and sponsor and you know, inclusion in the sub credits and all that stuff, all the way up to like ring skirt packages too. If you're really feeling like you want to hang out there and you want your name on every show going forward. So but yeah, there's options available there. But more importantly, it's not something that I can do myself. Divine is not me. I am not Divine. Divine is a collective of a lot of both women and men that are working behind the scenes on it, and the people that we have coming in to do camera work. I don't want to say who's going to be there because I don't know if they want to be advertised as being out there, but I'm very excited for this show. My philosophy is if you invest in the wrestlers, they'll invest in you. Right. Hopefully I'm not proven wrong on that. But it's worked pretty good for me in business so far. So I'm going to invest in them. Hopefully they invest in the product. We put on the best show possible. And moving forward, this is going to be on YouTube, but maybe we'll be able to get it on something like Title Match, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay.
So that's the goal. That's ultimately the goal, is to put as many views as, yeah. You understand what I'm saying,
right?
I want eyes on the product.
Yeah, that's what it is. Get as many eyes on the product as you can.
Yeah. Because like I said, I truly believe that everyone that steps through that ring has a future ahead of them in the industry, and it's up to them how high they go. But if I can help lift them up just a little bit further, if we can help lift them up just a little bit further, and they can look back and say, you know, I was part of Divine. I did the right thing. I did the right thing. Clint did the right thing. Annie, Kevin, all of them. Nick, that doesn't matter who's involved with it. Trevor, my sound guy, sound engineer, a sound extraordinaire if you want. They all did the right thing. We all did our little bit to help somebody achieve their dream.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
That is really cool.
That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, you guys too, because you guys are, you know, letting me come on here and talk your ear off about it.
Yeah, dude, no issues. I enjoy listening to it.
Oh, me too. Yes.
All right, I think there's probably enough time for us each to get maybe one more good question in.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll try to keep them short. I have power of lungs. I will talk forever. So
no, you're good.
You're great.
Yeah, we'll get a question. We'll each get one more question in. We'll let you have the end. Tell people where you are when we're done, where they can find you, of course, and then we'll skedaddle after that.
Perfect.
So my last question actually is about the podcast as well, and it's a little bit of a thinker. I'm assuming most likely. I try not to do these ones because I know they can be difficult sometimes. Because I even have difficulty answering this question sometimes. But if you could interview any wrestler around the world, past, present, you know, alive, dead, who would you pick to be in like a top 5 situation for you?
You want 5 of them?
At least 5.
Chris Canyon.
Okay.
Oh, like flat out, Chris Canyon. Eddie Guerrero.
Okay.
China.
Ooh, interesting.
Woman or Nancy Benoit.
Okay. Touche.
And man,
Ooh.
I have a toss up, maybe Harley Race.
Okay.
Like
That's a good one.
that would be a possibility. It's either Harley Race or Mike Awesome. Like probably
Ooh,
Mike Awesome.
okay.
I'm gonna say Mike Awesome.
Okay. I like that. All right. Touche.
I've kind of thought about that one.
Really good answers. I'm glad you did, because I'm still thinking I got like 3 answers out of the 5 so far.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's one of those ones that, like, that's kind of how the show developed. Really, is that we would sit around and think about that, like, who would
Right,
we like to talk
absolutely.
to, and
100%.
those are probably the straight up answers right off the top of my head. I could probably give you 20 names, but I'll go with
Right.
those for being the.
Okay.
Right.
Those are a really good top 5 though.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And so
Right.
for my last question, so this is also about podcast, but this is a different question. So it's so doing some research before the show, I saw that 1 out of 5 Americans listen to podcasts every day. So in your opinion, why do you think podcasts are so popular?
So I used to work in the radio industry. I worked for 101 WRAF, the greater media family of stations, 94.7. And when I was there, 105.1 wasn't the bounce. It was magic. So it was like a easy listening kind of, like, I called it dental office music. Like the receptionist at the dental office would listen to it. And when you have a program director, you play top 40 hits, but it's whatever top 40 hits are congruent with your genre of music that you're playing. So being like when I was at Riff, this was 2009, so it was a lot of Hinder and Saving Abel and things like that. And if I hear Lips from an Angel one more time, it makes me want to jump out the window next to me. So I think podcasts give people a different choice, but also it's kind of a harken back to the old days of like Jack Benny and Groucho Marx and these radio plays. Orson Welles had a few of them as well, like the War of the Worlds. It would give people an opportunity to listen to people and get invested in stuff, but also because we are such a society on the go, it doesn't always have a visual component to it that it needs. And especially when podcasts started on iTunes, there was no visual component. So it's an easy way for people to break from the norm of listening to the same song 5 or 6 times. You can consume information in that amount of time. You can maybe get interested in it. And honestly, there's a podcast that is named for basically what they are, and it's Time Suck, Dan Cummins' podcast. That's kind of what they do is they do that. I listen to 4 to 5 a day, probably, if I had to guess. I listen to a lot of stuff that I don't like watching. Like true crime. I'm not a big fan of sitting down and watching a true crime show, but I like listening to somebody talk about it if they present it in a very digestible format, like a Casual Criminalist and the bald British guy, Simon Whistler. He does all, not Simon, not our friend Simon, not that Simon. But that's I listen to that. I listen to history podcasts, which I love watching history stuff, but sometimes it's easier for me to not get lost in like whatever's going on TV, or goodness forbid you watch the History Channel and then it's just commercial after aliens. Which is fun, like mindless entertainment. But if I want to like sit down and listen to something, there's a fantastic channel called Flashpoint History. And Rita's right, actually, like, because part of the reason that I listen to the stuff is that's kind of the way that I learn a little bit better, is if I listen to it or if I'm doing something hands-on. But if I'm just reading material, it's the words go into one eye, out the other eye. I don't like absorb it. It doesn't sit with me. And I think that's the importance of podcasts, though, is because we have such a society that is designed on neurodivergency, or not really designed on it, but like has really realized that there's a lot of people that are neurodivergent out there. We have different ways to learn stuff. And that's become one of the better things like that we have at our helm. Now, mind you, there are some people that probably shouldn't have a podcast, myself included. But there's options out there, and there's options for everybody. You don't have to click the listen button, but if you do, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yes.
I feel the same way. Just you don't have to listen, but it'd be awesome if you did.
Yeah.
All right, I had a great time. Thank you for coming on, of
Thank
course. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank
enjoyed
you.
the conversation. Some great answers. Tell the people where they can find you: YouTube, Facebook, or the podcast.
So you can find me. So you can find myself. If you know me personally, use my personal Facebook page. If you don't know me personally and you want to get a hold of me about myself wrestling, which is weird, but like if you want to, that's fine. You can find me at the Hoochie Daddy EJ on Facebook, or on Instagram, preferably Instagram, because for some reason my Facebook page does not like to give me notifications, but Instagram does.
Okay.
If you want to get a hold of me via Divine, it is Divine Pro Wrestling on Facebook, or Divine Pro Wrestle. It's got the cool logo with the luchadora and the roses and stuff. You can't miss it. It's super unique.
Right.
And that goes for everybody. If you have anybody that you want to get a hold of about anything on the show, feel free to reach out there. I'm the sole point of contact for that. So everything that comes to that page goes through me. It's never going to end up with somebody else. If you're interested in watching the show live every other Thursday night at 8 p.m., is On a Forklift Wrestling podcast. We are on YouTube and Facebook. We do a simulcast like you guys do. And then you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, I think, if that's a thing, or YouTube Podcast, whatever it is now. It just uploads to all of those. And we are live this Thursday. I will not be on there. However, I will be on tomorrow night on both YouTube and Facebook with Peapod, going over the King of the Kill, talking about Divine, talking about Flophouse, talking about basically everything going on in wrestling in Southeast Michigan in the next 4 to 5 days. I think Clash is something we're going to touch on as well. Our friends over at Clash Wrestling in Allen Park /Taylor.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Interesting.
But yeah, you can kind of find me there, or find me at a show and just say, "Hey, you." Usually I have this hat on, and I usually don't have a lot of pants on. It's usually they're usually short shorts. So
any answers to you? Hey, you.
Yeah. Hey, you. Yeah. That's how I grew up. So I just kind of continued on to that thing. I am horrible with the etiquette in the business. If you come up to me and you try to shake my hand, I'll do it, but I will probably be like, "Why are you shaking my hand?
What are we doing this for?"
Yeah, I'm good with fist bumps. We can fist bump. That's good. Elbows is cool. Handshakes are fine too. If you hug me, I'm gonna feel a little more at ease. A handshake is such a weird thing to me. Let me interlock my digits with your digits, and we have completed this business transaction. And I'm like, that's cool, but I wanted to eat my mozzarella sticks, and now I have to go wash my hands. So,
right.
Yep. Okay. That's it. That's where you can find me.
Awesome.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Absolutely. You want to tell us the date and where we can find the show, and then we'll exit from there.
September. So first off, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on the podcast. Please watch. You guys are live every Monday or something like that.
Yep, every Monday.
Brain Jerk Entertainment. Brother Paul and Reese. You can catch them on here. September 6th, 2024, Wyandotte, Michigan, 519 Oak Street, Grizzlies Bar and Grill. You can find us there. Doors are at 6:45. First bell is at 7:30. We'll try to be out of that place by about 9:15, and everybody can go on. And guess what? Fast food restaurants are still open at 9:15. They're not open later than that, Jeremiah. Don't let your shows run until 12 o'clock. I almost missed the cutoff at White Castle. You know how hard that is?
Oh, my gosh.
White Castle was going to close on me.
White Castle's so we're not serving food anymore.
Right. We don't have a Waffle House here. We don't have a Waffle House here. They denied DBA, which is BS. But
oh, dang.
Thank you, Mama.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, guys. And I love seeing your stuff. Brother Paul, thank you for having me on here. Thank you for inviting
Absolutely.
me on here. I appreciate
100%.
what you brought to me. Reese, thank you for your continued positivity in basically every post that you have out there. It is infectious, and I know people enjoy it. So continue.
100%.
Whatever you do, keep doing that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With
Thank you,
that being
gentlemen.
said, thank you all for joining us. Of course, thank you as well, Mr. Ethan. Join us next week live, next Monday, 8 to 9 p.m. We will be joined with Zico, aka Kram. And that should be a fantastic interview. Very, very interesting. I can't wait.
Yes, it's going to be great.
Adios, guys.